Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me on another audio recording. I want to talk about um, the question that a lot of empaths ask, and that is, should they confront the narcissist in their life and tell them that they are indeed a narcissist? Um, and that is a touchy subject because you just don't know how a person like that, with MPD is going to respond. Um, they can, you know, explode in complete rage and, really hurt you, um, which actually happened to me when um, I exposed or tried to expose the narcissist. And it wasn't that I was saying that he was a narcissist at that time. I was just exposing something that I had found out that he was trying really hard to keep hidden. Um, but anytime you expose those type of people, whether it's about their narcissism or something that they have been lying to you about for months or years, and you let them know, hey, I've got your number, you really have to tread lightly because you honestly don't know, again, how this person is going to respond or react. You don't just want to jump in and then find out what's going to happen on a whim. You may want to test the waters just because you want to keep yourself safe. You want to, if you have a family, you want to keep your family safe. And this is in all seriousness. I mean, people have been killed, unmasking a narcissistic person. And because you all have to understand, these people, their whole lives are built around a false identity. They are in the positions that they're in their life because of the lies that they tell. So if you in any way try to mess that up for them, you just don't know, what's going to happen. That's it's their livelihood that you're messing with, to basically snatch the rug from underneath them and expose them. Not that, normal people don't lie, but normal people don't go around, creating a life based on lie after lie after lie after lie. So anyway, I'm going to show you all a clip, and this is basically it's an old story, but it reminded me of my situation and what it could have been. And thank God it didn't end up the way it happened to this other individual. But basically, the woman, Natalie Holloway, I don't know if you all remember that person's name, but she, in a nutshell, she was this, very beautiful blonde woman who went on a vacation to Aruba with her classmates. She ends up meeting this guy, and she basically was never seen again after dealing with this guy. And the guy has basically denied having any dealings with her, even though there's been a lot of evidence pointing to him murdering her, but her body's never been found. And so there was a time where he was free to go about his business in life, and he met this woman named, what was her name? Stephanie. And I guess they had been dating for some time, and he invited her into his apartment. And when I don't know if he stepped out for a few minutes or whatnot, but she became a little curious and she started playing around on his laptop computer. Well, she stumbled upon some information where it was pretty clear that, you know, he was the guy who was involved in, you know, murdering this woman, Natalie Holloway. They got into a big argument over it. He went into a rage and basically killed Stephanie, the girl he had started dating, in that apartment. So basically she was exposing and asking questions, and he, you know, was irate about it, and he turned on her. And I'll show you all the clip really quick, and I'll go ahead and discuss or share what happened between my ex-narcissist and myself.
It's a stunning break in the case. After 5 days in police custody, denying repeatedly that he killed Stephanie Flores, the young Dutchman broke down in admitting to murdering the 21-year-old Peruvian student in his hotel room after a night of drinking and gambling. The bombshell confession came late last night. Under intense questioning, the 22-year-old Joran reportedly told investigators that he attacked Stephanie Flores. He grabbed her by the neck when she took his laptop, he said, and started reading articles about him on the internet. I did not want to do it, he tearfully admitted. The girl intruded into my private life. She had no right. I confronted her. She was frightened. We argued, and she wanted to get away. I grabbed her by her neck and I hit her. This morning, sources tell ABC News that Joran will take investigators to the scene of the crime, the TAC Hotel in downtown Lima, to show them how he attacked Stephanie. Remember, that surveillance video shows that he brought Stephanie to the hotel in the early morning hours on Sunday, May 30th. He's seen leading her past the front desk as he takes his keys. She walks behind him, her back to the camera. Moments later, upstairs, another camera captures them walking into Joran's room. This is the last time Stephanie is seen alive. 4 hours later, Joran leaves the hotel room alone, wearing a different shirt. He walks through the lobby carrying 2 bags. Stephanie's body is discovered in that hotel room 3 days later. Throughout the investigation, authorities have been carefully documenting, videotaping every step of their probe, including a search of Joran's belongings.
La policía tiene ya su computadora.
Police now have Joran's laptop, says Stephanie's father. It contains valuable information that may lead to more of Joran's victims.
Que hay más asesinatos.
I think he killed many others, he says. Stephanie's murder has sparked new interest in Joran's role in the disappearance of Natalie Holloway in Aruba. There are reports now that new search teams will soon begin scouring the island for more clues.
The question remains, will he reveal any information with regard to the disappearance of Natalie Holloway?
The hope is that in death, Stephanie will provide vital answers in Natalie's case and bring closure to the Holloway family. And that, of course, is the next step in the investigation. Authorities down there in Peru are pressuring Joran into telling them more about Natalie Holloway's disappearance. Will he also confess to any role in that? Last night, we spoke to Ricardo Flores, Stephanie's father, who told us he's been notified of Joran's confession. He says he'd like to speak to Natalie's family to reassure them, George, that this time justice is being done.
Okay, John, thanks very much.
Okay, so you all saw that sad clip about what happened to those 2 women. And what happened to Stephanie, the woman that he was dating that went into the apartment with this guy and ended up not coming out alive again due to her exposing him. That issue or that situation happened to me, but thankfully it ended with, you know, just being battered for exposing the ex-narcissist that I was with. So when we were in Italy, where we were stationed at the time, over the year, we were married by then. We had our son Amari. Our son was about 1.5 years old by this time. There had been doubt in the back of my mind that just wouldn't go away about a specific woman that my ex-narcissist had been involved with when we were taking a break, when we were dating. And long story short, I used to always question him about it because I just wanted to know, like, you know, did you all sleep together? Like, he literally flew from his hometown where he was staying at the time to be with this woman. And this was during the time where he was trying to basically find solid ground. You know, he wanted to find a sucker, and he wanted to find a sucker fast, as far as, you know, someone that was going to take him in and you know, pay all the bills and just take care of him. Because a lot of narcissists, especially the lower range narcissists, that's all they want in life. They just want a sucker, to be honest. Someone that's going to just take care of them and not ask them any questions, you know, just put up with their bull crap and turn the other cheek when it comes to their infidelities, lies, and controlling nature. So anyway, out of the blue, 3 months into my ex-narcissist dealing with this girl, he ends up calling me. And at that time, you know, I was still single and I was dating different guys. And I had told him, you know, when he told me he was going to go fly out and be with this girl that he met online, I had told him, you know, hey, do your thing. I just didn't want to have any dealings with him ever again from that point, because honestly, I was still in love with him, even though a lot of stuff had went down between us and a lot of red flags. And with me finally being in a different state, far away from him, I was trying to get my life back together. And, you know, it did make me jealous that he was flying out to see this girl. But I just told him, you know, I'm happy for you, but I just want us to never be in contact ever again once he went to, you know, stay with her or whatever. So he was like, oh yeah, I understand. And it really did hurt me, but I did my best to move on. And I you know, like I said, I was dating other guys, and you know, I had a lot of stuff going on that was good in my life. So I was honestly in a really good place after the 3 months had passed. So anyway, the ex-narc ends up calling me, and I didn't pick up right away, and it ended up being like almost it was like a stalker. He went into like a stalker mode, just like calling over and over and over again. I mean, I ended up having to, after I had blocked his number, he was just relentless. Like, he had found this app where you could call someone through random numbers that it just pulls out of the air. So that's basically what he did, and he had done it so much, I had to turn my phone off. I had to turn my ringer off and my phone completely, just so that I could have my sanity, because, you know, he just wouldn't stop. Like, he had called over and over and over and over and over and over again for hours until I couldn't receive calls in from anyone else, and I couldn't call out to anyone else without actually talking to him. So I'm kind of getting off subject. So anyway, I finally, you know, he started making all these voicemails, leaving all these voicemails on my phone, and doing what a narcissist loves to do when they find that you're not an easy cookie to crack. And he started saying that he didn't feel well, that he was really sick, that something was going on. And, you know, he was just putting on, I mean, he could have won a freaking Oscar for how he was, you know, portraying how horrible he felt, and that I really needed to get in touch with him because, you know, it was the right thing to do and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, long story short, I got back in touch with him, and, you know, I had a lot of questions for him. One of them was, you know, what happened, you know, to this love of your life or whatnot that you had told me about, you know, what happened between, you know, the 3 months that have gone by. And I wanted to know if he had slept with her or whatever, and he said no, that he didn't even kiss her. And in my heart, I knew that that was a bold-faced lie, but I wanted to believe him. So, but it just wouldn't, you know, that feeling of the fact that he was probably lying just never left me, no matter what. So fast forward years later, we're married, we're living in Italy, we have our son who's 1.5, and one night he had fell asleep in the living room as usual, and then I was in the bedroom and I was on the laptop, and at that time we shared a laptop, but he was very secretive about everything, as far as his cell phone and Facebook and all that. And he had actually left his Facebook logged in, and I guess forgot about it because he had rushed out of the house earlier that day. But anyway, so I'm laying in bed, and I happened to look through some stuff on his Facebook, and he usually kept a lot of stuff, you know, if he typed anything, usually like on his cell phone, like if he got a message or if he sent the message out, he would always erase it right away. Which I didn't think it was anything to worry about at first, but in hindsight, you know, that can be a red flag. So anyway, I'm looking through some stuff, and I find a picture of this girl, or who, you know, she seemed to share the same name as the name that my ex-narc had said her name was. And she had this mixed child on her lap. So the girl was Caucasian, which I don't have any problems with. I'm, you know, not a racist person or anything, but I'm just saying this for the story. So the girl was Caucasian, which I already knew. So the picture I saw was a Caucasian girl, and she had this mixed child on her lap, and she was saying something about you know, so, you know, the little girl misses you or whatnot. And that was like really alarming, because I was just like, wow, could this be the, you know, the girl that you know, my ex-narc had flown and spent, you know, 3 months with, and then came back to me, you know, professing his love and trying his darnest to get back into my life, and lying to me that, you know, he never slept with this girl, let alone kissed her. So that made me feel extremely uneasy and upset, but I didn't want to wake our son up at the time, during that time, or at that moment. So I just tried to get some sleep, which I slept like crap. I didn't sleep at all, because I was just kind of like going over things and trying to figure, you know, piece things together, and I didn't want to believe it. You know, I kept trying to talk to myself about, maybe it was, you know, maybe I'm overreacting, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I get up for work the next day, and, you know, I get into my uniform, I brush my teeth, everything. I get ready, and, you know, the ex-narc is just chilling in the living room doing his thing. And my son was up and doing, you know, what 1.5-year-olds do. And so I decided to ask the question right before I walked out the door to go to work. And I asked him, I don't know exactly what I said, but basically I mentioned the girl's name, and I asked him about, is it true? Like, do you all was something else going on that you just didn't share with me, because this is what I saw online on your Facebook because you left it up. And he immediately went into a rage, just like in my previous video where I talked about what was it? It was the wolf in sheep's clothing in that video, where my ex went into a rage and yanked my wig off or whatnot. I swear this guy, once he yanked my wig off the first time years ago, he left that in his bag, his arsenal bag, to use against me, because he knew how much it humiliated me, because I don't have, I don't have hair underneath. So anyway, as soon as I asked him the question, he just went into a rage. He immediately jumped up from the couch. He got in my face. He asked me, so this is what you're losing sleep over? Oh, so this is what kept you up last night? And, I was just kind of stunned, like, dude, like, I just asked you a question, just answer it. So then the ex-narc proceeded to grab the wig off my head, and he yanked it off with force and shoved me back down to the ground. So I fell backwards onto my behind, and I was once again humiliated because he had taken my wig off, and I was just sitting there. It was basically like I was being ripped of all of my clothing in front of the world, and I was extremely embarrassed. My adrenaline started pumping, and I immediately got up and I socked him the hardest I could with my fist. I just punched him. And mind you, he wears glasses. Sometimes he wears contacts, but he was wearing his glasses. And so I had punched him so hard, like I was seeing red, you guys. I was seeing red. I just couldn't believe he had done that again, as far as snatched my wig off my head and got physical with me. And so our 1.5-year-old son, he was obviously upset and screaming, and I felt extremely bad that my son had to see that, and I honestly didn't want him to see that. It just was one of those things that happened, and I went over to try and calm him down, and the ex-narc had the nerve to ask me to help him find his glasses because he couldn't see, and yada yada yada. And I just ended up, after I got our son calmed back down, and I got myself back together, got my wig back on, I headed off to work. And that's when I let all of my leadership know, my supervisor and everyone had to get involved, and that was embarrassing. While I'm at work and talking to my leadership about it and to the police, the ex-narc went and did his own police report and painted the story completely different, saying how I attacked him and how he didn't do anything. And he even went to get pictures taken at the base hospital and get seen for the punch that he received from me after he attacked me. And so he was definitely putting himself and painting himself as the victim who did nothing to deserve anything that happened to him. And he's not sure why I did what I did, and poor me. And he just did everything to convince everyone that I was the perpetrator, and I was the one that needed to be dealt with. And it was just sickening. It was sick. It was sad. They have this thing called, when you're in the military and stuff like that goes down, they have a place called family advocacy that you have to attend. It's like a counseling. You have to go, like, I want to say 2 or 3 times a week for however long they feel you need to see them. And what happens is they take you, not only is the victim supposed to go, but the ex-narc was also made to go. He happily obliged because he felt it was a way for him to get a leg up and on me and convince the counselor that it was me and not him that got us in this whole situation. So in the end, after the family advocacy case hits a certain point, then there is a panel of military psychologists, doctors, or whatnot. They basically sit on a panel and they review everything from, the police reports on both sides, everything, the counseling that you've gone through, as well as the my ex-narc. And they basically try to figure out of everything that's in front of them, who's at fault in the end. And unfortunately, we had to, with almost each base that we went to, except for the base that we're at now, we had to go through that whole family advocacy process because of repeated incidents like this, domestic violence. And so each time that we went through this family advocacy, and in the end, he was always found to be guilty. And I was very thankful. I mean, they weren't biased at all. They basically looked at all the information, and I was able to also look at what the ex-narc had put down, and you could clearly see, like, this dude was reaching. He was really reaching with the stuff that he was saying. And I'm glad that the panel, the board, saw through his bullcrap each time. And so the only bad part about it is, since he was civilian and this was a military incident, they basically couldn't touch him. I mean, they could put on paper that he was at fault in the end, and not myself. And that was pretty much the gist of it. So he would always go around, the ex-narc, boasting, like, what are they going to do? Throw me in jail? He basically taunted me and others that were involved, knowing that in the end, he was just going to get a slap on the wrist with a piece of paper or a memorandum stating that he was at fault. But that was as far as it would go. So anyway, yeah, that was another incident that happened between the ex-narc and I. And so again, you all be careful out there. If you know you're dealing with a narcissistic person, or anyone with a mental health disorder, you just kind of want to tread lightly. You may want to make sure that you're in a safe place, or that you've moved out, or that, if you want to really confront them, and get yourself in a safe space before, if you really feel it's necessary to question an individual like that. Because again, you guys, they pride themselves on being where they are in life, and if they're in a really good place in life and you are stepping on their toes and, you know, putting them in a position where they may lose all of that, you know, by questioning them or confronting them, it could end up really bad. So I'm grateful that, you know, it didn't get to the point where I was killed or anything like that, but you know, I was a little battered and my pride was shaken, but yeah, that's pretty much where I'm gonna end this. And if you haven't subscribed or given a thumbs up, please do so, and I will see you all in the next video audio clip.